Hi guys. So it is Monday, April 27th, if that's the date you're watching this. If not, then it's a different day at a different time. But we're going to do our ELA video. This is our third one. And I wanted to get started going over our winners from last week, as well as your book club questions that you had. So, not sure if you guys realize this, but this day and this entire week, y'all would be taking the LEAP test if we were not at our stay-at-home orders. Our champions for this week, we have our Lexia champions. We have Madison, Ethan, and Trace, and Madison is killing it. She's actually got 19 units she did this week. You guys only have to do 10 a week, and she did 19. And Trace is real close behind. He did 18, and Ethan did 14 the last time I checked, so he's probably even doing more now. We have Hallie and Sassia and Sophia are all kind of catching up. There are runners up this week, but these three are definitely our champions. And if you can tell, they're dressed a little special today. We're going to be talking about how they are dressed as the meeting goes on. So this past week, you had to answer a two-part question. This is based on chapters 5 through 8. The question was, what reasons did bugs give Bud for hopping on trains? And the second part is, what reason did the mouth organ man give Bud to persuade him to stay in Hooverville? So those are your two questions. I got a couple answers, but I want you guys to really think about the answer to that question. And we're going to see what our guest stars have to say about it.
Hi guys, I wanted to welcome you to our second book discussion. Elliot and I will be joining you shortly. I want to make sure that you guys have taken a look at these questions, get your answers ready, and let's see if Mr. McGillicuddy and Sandy and Waldo all agree with you. We actually have a couple secret guests, surprise guests that I'm going to invite. And it's not even Vivian and Gus. It's different. I don't even know their names. So you're going to have to join us.
What reasons does Bugs give Bud for hopping on trains?
I was building a tree, and so I followed the mob. When there was earth to plow or guns to bear, I was always there, right on the job. They used to tell me I was building a dream, with peace and glory ahead. Why should I be standing in line?
Oh, okay. My name is Gary. I know the answer. It's because he's getting beat up and he wants to run away. That's why.
No, not true. It's the fruits. There's fruits out west. That's why. They can make money with the fruit.
Okay, so we have two different answers here. Gary the Gecko said that the reason Bugs gave Bud for leaving town is that he just had that fight. And if I look at that first paragraph, this is where Gary the Gecko gets his evidence. It says, Bugs said, "Yep, I'm going back to riding the rails. When I heard about you beating that kid up so bad that you had to take off, I figured it was time for me to get going too. I thought you might be hanging around with the library, so I come down to see if you wanted to go with me." So that's Bugs trying to convince Bud to leave town. Now Waldo said something different. Waldo said that Bugs was trying to convince him to hop on those trains because there was fruit to pick out west. So I'm looking at that second paragraph, and here's the evidence for that. It says, "There's always fruits to be picked out west. I heard we can make enough money to get by out there. There's supposed to be a train leaving sometime tomorrow. Did you really beat that kid up in the foster home?" So that's Bugs telling him, let's go out west, we can make some money.
So which is it? Who do you agree with? Do you agree with Gary the Gecko that it was actually to run away from that Amos boy who he just beat up? Is that the reason why he should get on the train? Or do you agree with Waldo that the reason that Bugs gave him is that he should go out west to pick some fruit and make some money? Remember, you always want to use clear reasons with some evidence to back up your points. So what were the reasons that Bugs were using? Do you have any other reasons you came up with? There's a bizarre one on page 63 that actually Bud seemed to like, but I don't know if that would be a reason to convince me. That definitely would not persuade me to hop on a train. Let's see what you wrote.
It's only a shanty in an old shanty town. The roof is so slanting, it touches the ground.
What reason does the mouth organ man give Bud for staying in Hooverville?
There's mansion. Oh, baby, it's called me back. I give Bob my palace. If I were a king, it's more than a palace. It's my.
I have found the reason right here on page 68 to read this.
All these people are just like you. They're tired, hungry, and a little bit nervous about tomorrow. This here is the right place for y'all to be, because we're all in the same boat. Elliot, did you read page 68? Do you agree with her? Kathy the Cardinal said it was because they were all in the same boat. You know what that means to be in the same boat? That's a figure of speech. If you're in the same boat. So to be in the same boat is a figure of speech. That means that two people or three people or a group of people are all going through something together, even though they're all different people and they all have different lives. They're going through something, maybe it's usually if you're going through something hard. Like we're all going through this quarantine together. None of us are at school. We all have to stay home. And even though we all have different lives and what we're doing at home is completely different, we're all in the same boat. We all have to stay home. We all can't go to school or go to the park. And so this guy is saying, the mouth organ man is saying that in Hooverville, everybody there is in the same boat. Everybody's tired. Everybody's hungry. So these little boys should stay there because they're all in their same boat. They're all going through the same thing. Do you think that's a convincing argument? Do you think that's a good reason that would actually persuade Bud to stay in Hooverville? Would you stay around people who are going through the same hard time you are? What do you think?
Oh, yes. Good reasons.
All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed our book discussion. We're going to try to do that every Friday afternoon and post it in our video for our ELA video on Mondays. This week, your Google assignment is to read Bud Not Buddy, chapters 9 through 12. And there's a lot that happens in those chapters. It kind of gets to like the meat of the story, the action of the story. So I think you're really going to like that. And of course, I've read those chapters to you. They're on missdressersclass.com. So if you want to just follow along with me reading it, you can do that as well. And our Google question for this week is, why did Bud decide to lie to Lefty Lewis? And you're going to have to read to find out who Lefty Lewis is. But Bud decided to lie to him, and we want to figure out why. You're going to give an example from the book. Make sure to use quotation marks when copying writing from the book. And that's what we're going to be talking about and focusing on our writing this week. Because quotation marks can be really tricky how you use them. And a lot of grown-ups don't do it correctly when they're writing. So it's really important that you do it correctly, because it's really, of course, important that you use evidence when you're explaining things. You want to go right back to stories or right back to research you've done. And it's important to know how to present that research. So that's what we're looking at today. So these two sentences have some mistakes. They are related to capitalization and punctuation. So for the first one, it says, my mother said, bring your English book to Milken Middle School. I want to figure out, first of all, I know that sentence has to start with a capital letter, yes, and it's going to end with a period because it's not a question and it's not screaming or anything like that. So I would capitalize that M. My mother said, bring your English book to Milken Middle School.
Well, I also know that Milken Middle School is the name of a school. So I'm going to capitalize all of that. I'm going to capitalize the Milken, the middle, and the school, all three parts. The thing we want to look at this week is quotation marks. So when somebody is speaking, all the words that are coming out of mother's mouth has to have those two little quotation marks at each end. So she starts talking when she says bring. So I'm going to have my quote right before bring your English book to school. And that's where I'm going to have it right at the end, after school. I put the end of my quotation marks. I also need to make sure that I put a comma right before bring, so I know that I'm about to start talking about the quote. So that comma is really, really important. And this is how your final sentence should look. Double check yours and fix any errors. All right, so we are going to be reading a brief story for this last little piece, and this is a Greek myth. So I don't know if you guys have ever studied Greek mythology, but this is way over in Greece, which is part of Europe. It's right actually on the kind of border between Europe and Asia. I was lucky enough to get to go there, I don't know, 20 years ago with my dad. So I have a picture of me standing right near one of these Greek temples that was made to a Greek goddess. So we're going to be talking about some of those gods and goddesses. But if you look at the world's map, you can see where Africa is, and you can see where Russia is. And it's right over in the corner, kind of where right above Egypt and Turkey is where Greece is. So that's where a lot of the myths are that we're going to be studying. And this right here is a picture of me and my sister standing right by the temple where the Greek gods, it was built for Greek god Athena. The book we're going to be using and that I'm going to be reading out of is called Gifts from the Gods. And if you look at this picture, you can see there's a really strong looking figure seated on like a throne, and he's got a scroll, and you probably can't read it, but on that scroll there's a list of words, and these are common words that we know that have their roots in Greek myths. So there's fortune and fate and echo and genius and grace, nemesis, panic. These are words you've heard before, and they get their roots, their origin from Greek mythology. So these words date back to 2,000 years ago. The story we're going to be reading today, the myth, is called Pandora's Box, and this is a pretty famous one. I think it's actually one of my favorites. So Pandora's Box, it's a noun, a source of many unforeseen troubles or problems. Pandora was the first woman on earth. Zeus commanded Hephaestus, the god of fire and sculpture, to create her. Hephaestus modeled her body of earth, gave her a face like the immortal goddesses, and infused her with a human voice and vigor. When he was done, each god bestowed a special gift on her. Aphrodite gave her matchless beauty. Athena clothed her in silken gowns and taught her the art of needlework. Apollo gave her the gift of music. Hermes, the power of persuasion. The three Graces covered her in jewels and braided her hair with sweetly scented flowers. When the gods and goddesses were finished, Zeus gave her one final gift: insatiable curiosity. So insatiable curiosity means that it can never be satisfied. It can never be fulfilled. So she's always going to be curious no matter what happens. Insatiable, it's like you can't satisfy it. As they had granted her one gift each, the gods named this new creature Pandora, which means all gifts. But Zeus had not made Pandora out of kindness. Rather, he was planning to use her as a way to punish humans and their protector, the god Prometheus. Prometheus had stolen fire from the gods in defiance of Zeus's orders and given it to mankind. Knowing that Prometheus would be suspicious of a gift from him, Zeus offered Pandora in marriage to Epitheus, who was Prometheus's brother. As a wedding gift, he sent along a lovely carved box. Handing the box to Pandora, Zeus looked her in the eye and warned, "Don't ever open it."
Pandora, don't open that box.
I'm gonna have to put Elliot in the box.
Pandora!
In those days, the world was a wonderful place to live. There was no sadness, no sickness, no old age, and no quarrels. And Pandora was very happy. Only one thing came to bother her: the mysterious box and its forbidden content. She could not get the box out of her mind. Why give a wedding gift and tell me I cannot open it? Surely Zeus did not mean what he said, thought Pandora. One day, while Ephemius was away, Pandora could no longer resist the urge to sneak a look inside the box. Carefully, she cracked the lid open. Something within was crawling around. Tiny voices pleaded with her to let them out. Overcome with curiosity, Pandora flung open the lid. Out from the box flew howling, wailing, snarling, insect-like creatures. Every misery burst forth: disease, anger, cruelty, old age, despair, pain, suffering, lies, envy, gossip, vanity, greed, anxiety, and revenge filled the room and flew out the window to scatter all over the world. Horrified, Pandora slammed the lid shut. She tried to catch some of the miseries and put them back into the box, but it was too late. The only thing left in the box was a small, trembling thing: hope. From then on, human life has been filled with great difficulty. But because Pandora caught hope before it could escape, humans are able to endure all the hardships that afflict us. With hope, all things are possible. So is this a creation myth where it tells you how something came to be? Or is it a morality myth that teaches you how to behave? Press pause, jot your answer, and then press play for the answer. Pandora's box is a creation myth. It explains how badness, how difficulty came to be in the world. The only thing I don't really like is that they called old age a problem, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But they say that's where fear came from, and sadness and anger, all the negative things in the world came because Pandora opened that box and she could not resist the curiosity. Join us next week for another installation of Greek myths.